And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And I am not a critic. I am a film fan, I am a cinephile, and I am a film collector, and I am not here to talk about shit. I prefer to keep, my love of film intact. I still, I just prefer to know how. I prefer to stay knowing how to have fun with films, which critics, that's the first thing they give up. So we are going to talk about Abigail. Abigail is a brand new, or the new, really good vampire genre film. Abigail was released in 2024. It is rated R, of course, which is good. It stars Melissa Barrera, Dan Stevens, and Alisha Weir. It was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin, Tyler Gillett. Sorry, dude. It's your name. You did it. Writers Stephen Shields and Guy Busick. Now, I'm not saying you need to change your name for the industry, but if you don't want people butchering it on their videos, don't have such a weird ass name. Alright, that's just the way it goes. So, I love it. Abigail opens up with Abigail doing her little ballet practice, and she's on her way home. And we notice that there is a little gang of people that are hanging around her house, obviously on some kind of Black Ops mission. When she gets there, she is attacked and kidnapped. The dad comes home. Maybe it was the dad. He comes home, but of course they get away with her. They take her to some weird mansion where when they get there, we are introduced to, whatever his name is, Lambert, where he informs them that they are going to hold her for 24 hours. They won't tell them who she is the daughter of, and that they are requesting $50 million from her underworld boss dad. But they, like I said, they won't tell her who it is. So, at first, Lambert's going to leave, and he will be back. So he sort of leaves them there where they, the six of them settle into this creepy house. And it is a creepy house. Now, we're only, 15 minutes into the movie? And it actually didn't take me that long. It just took me that long to write it down. Because I want that gangster Dean dead ASAP. Now, I felt a little bad about that, at the end of the movie. When the credits roll, there's a message there that made me go to Google to find out what that message meant. And I found out that stuff, so I felt a little bad about it, but at the same time, it's not like I said I wanted the actor dead. I wanted that character dead. Of course, after seeing pictures of the actor, I wouldn't want anything to do with him either, but the point is, that character, Dean, is the epitome. I mean, if you took everything that I hate about certain styles and put them all together in one person, Dean was that guy. From that horrific, just got out of prison, too lazy to brush my fucking hair, hairstyle, to that gangstery talk. I hate gangster talk. I'm saying. I got a fucked up accent, that's true, but it's just the accent. That gangstery talk is not an accent. It makes me want to go on a rampage of GBH, which is great bodily harm, and quite possibly homicide as well. So yeah, we're only 15 minutes into the movie, and I wanted that Dean guy dead. I'm like, please kill him. I want him gone. Like, I can't listen to another word he's got to say. I don't want to look at him, and I certainly don't want to listen to him. So, I mean, I could not. That was my hate character for this movie, was Dean. And, of course, if you watched the movie, which you should have already, especially if you want to discuss it with me, but you should have. And then you know that my dreams come true, and I was very, very happy about that. But so they agree that Joey is the only one. That's the girl named Joey, because Lambert gave them these names because he didn't want them to use their real names. So Joey goes up there. She takes the blindfold off, lets her out the cuffs, and they sort of build this repertoire, amongst each other. And she's really good at acting like a scared little child, you know what I'm saying? So downstairs, when they're like all together, Joey starts doing this little trick where she can like tell who you are just from a few minutes talking to you. And they all like have this bet, do me, where she kind of like reads them. It's the textbook definition of reading a person, and that is when you just lay it on the line as to who and what they are. And she pretty much had it right too, so that was a little trick of hers. However, she did have it thrown back in her face because the guy that she identified as former cop, he turned around and is like, well, I've got you too, and that is, you're a junkie. A former junkie, a current junkie, whatever, you're a junkie. And so that like hit her. So it was sort of like instant karma, you know what I mean? So she ends up talking to Abigail like once again, where Abigail tells her like something really prophetic, and that is, she's like, I'm really sorry about what's going to happen to you. But they at first thought that meant about who the dad was, and she ends up telling her that they've made a mistake because her dad doesn't care about her. And so he's certainly not going to pay any ransom for her. So she goes down there and informs them that something a little shady is going on. And who is that? Rickles? I think he's the one that it's like, oh, well, I'm out of here, like right now. And he tries to leave. So when he tries to leave, though, they were like, well, because Frank had walked in as well and didn't know that she didn't have her blindfold on. So she saw his face. Now they're like arguing down there. What should we do? Let's just leave. Just leave her here and let's just go and make an anonymous call. No, she's seen our faces. So, or two of them anyway. So we've got to kill her. No, we can't do that. Then they end up like going, yeah, but it's $7 million apiece, so let's just go ahead and do it. So they had all of that. They stick with the plan, and they start like investigating, the house, looking around for any way out, because Rickles had discovered that they were locked in. That's when my dream comes true. And that is that the Dean guy, he's in the kitchen and then goes into the pantry where he is like killed. And Sammy comes in there and finds him sitting at the table and walks up behind him and pulls his hair, and his head comes off in her hand. So that was pretty good. And I do remember sitting there going, thank God. It's dead. The gangster is dead. The wannabe. It's like Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice is dead. Pretty fly for a white guy. So, Mr. Pretty Fly for a white guy is dead. So that was like pretty thrilling to me. Now they're all freaking. Who is it? Joey tells them about the legend because they have now found out, that he's dead. So like she starts telling them the legend about who this dad could be. And they tell the legend about how all of his enemies end up really ugly, and the three guys that they had called of his team was like butchered this same way in a penthouse where they were being in protective custody, which, it's kind of never protective custody. So, she starts saying that, agreeing with Frank that that Abigail is like trying to set them up against each other, which she is. And they start like understanding that that's what's going on. So I'm fumbling. I know that because I'm trying to keep the story straight in my head. So when they go up there to confront Abby, we get to see her change for the first time, which was a really cool scene. When she like goes apeshit on them, and that brought about the next really funny scene, which was when they did manage to get out and get back down there, because she whipped their absolute ass. They did get back down there. They were all like, I cannot believe we're discussing this, but we're in the house with a vampire. And they had some really funny statements. I really liked Sammy's statement about it, because, when she's like, what do we know about vampires? And the other guy is like, like Peter, I think it was, is like, I can't believe are we really talking about this? And Joey was like, come on, let's just accept the situation. And Sammy is like, interject. She's like, well, what kind of vampires are we talking here? The Anne Rice kind, the Twilight kind, the True Blood kind, because like there's all different kinds of vampires. And I was like, that's true. I do know all of those. So yeah, that would be, if you were in that situation, we as film fans, and especially if you're a fan of the vampire genre, that there is a wide array of vampires. Is it the Daybreaker kind? Is it the 28 Days Later kind? Or that's actually zombies, not vampires, never mind. But Daybreakers was kind of like had their unique vampires, and she was right. True Blood, Twilight, Anne Rice, all of them are very, very different. Let the Right One In. All of them are extremely different in how you would approach them, which is going to have bearing on how you deal with the situation. Because you are going to deal entirely different with Lestat than you are with, a vampire from 30 Days from Night. You know what I'm saying? So I like the way that she put that little thing in there. So I liked it when Frank called him the ballerina vampire. Now in the special features and the like bloopers, he like has like, I think there was like 30 different takes of that scene where they were screaming at each other, him and Joey, about she was like, I was stupid enough. I wasn't stupid enough to walk in there. I always had my mask on, and he called her like 30 different things in that scene. There were like 30 different takes where he was using different words, ballerina vampire, and all of these different descriptions. And that was a really funny little outtakes that you can see at the end in the special features of this Blu-ray. So when they start having a huge fight again, one of the coolest ones I think was when she jumped on Peter, because they're all like the wooden stake, the garlic. I love when Sammy brought out the onions, and he's like, those are fucking onions, man. Because it's like she is the epitome of a fucking done blonde, So that was funny that she didn't know. Well, I don't cook. I don't know what garlic looks like. So that was pretty hilarious. But they're all trying their different, vampire lure tactics. And she is just blowing through them all. It's like, garlic, please. Wooden stake. Yeah, well, that could work, but you're going to be very hard getting one in me. But I loved it when he tried to hold up his crucifix and she instead took it off of him. and stabbed him like 50 times with it. Of course, that wasn't deep enough to kill him, but he had like 50 little stab wounds all over him. That was pretty cool. So Joey, she had not went up there. She had stayed down there because there's only them left. So they had went up there. She stayed downstairs, and when she come down, she's like, didn't work, did it? You know, all your little tricks. And that's when she said, while y'all have been doing that, I've come up with an actual plan that might work. Because none of this shit has worked. However, when I knocked her ass out with the trank, she was out for real. So if we can get her down here where I can trank her again, I've got this one syringe, then that will work, you know. So they all split, search, you know. We have the body pit scene, which was like really gross, where they were keeping all the bodies, and there was like 100 of them in the swimming pool, and she fell into it. That would be the end of me right there. These great group fights. They managed to trap her. Sam got bit, though. And she starts like wondering, what's going to happen? Am I going to turn? That was a pretty funny little aspect of her character. You hear Abigail say, you know, I've had centuries to practice. So obviously this little vampire is centuries old because she says so. So we get that nice little backstory when she says a couple of centuries, sort of like the boy who was pretending to be a girl in Let the Right One In. That boy Eli, what's his name? He was also, you know, a couple 100 years old. So that's what it made me think of at that moment. So where are we at? I was just making sure that my video had not stopped. She all then, when they get her trapped, you know, when they do manage to trank her and they got her trapped in that elevator, that was one of the like really great scenes of the movie, because there she is trapped in the lift, right? And she then reveals to us and to all of them exactly who each one of them is. And I realized at that moment, maybe you did as well, but I realized at that moment is that these people are all kind of connected either to her dad's business or, yeah, they were all connected to the business in one way or another. That's how huge the reach of her father's empire was. So we found out, you know, that Joey was a field medic who then went bad, killed someone, and all she could do was then be, you know, the call doctor, you know, Dr. Feelgood for very bad people. And we learned the guy was a cop. We learned all of their secrets, and that was like really cool to hear all of them. They all try to go find a way out after this happens, and they leave Frank alone to watch her, and she tries to make a deal with him. And he tries to, you know, screw her over in that way. That doesn't work very well. That was a really good fight. Then they all end up in the library hiding because it's daylight now. So the two things that we find out in this movie that stays with typical vampire lore is that, yes, you can stake them and they will blow up. So they're the blow up kind of vampire. And the sunlight. Because the scene where it like burnt off her arm and then it was growing back, that was very good. You know, interestingly enough, this movie is all practical. There's no CGI in this movie. There's a whole like little documentary on this release where they talk about how they kept it all practical and why they kept it all practical. So it's pretty cool that this movie is a completely practical effects movie. Now, while they're in the library doing all of that, they do end up managing to find, well, he wanted them to, but they find the main power room, and while they're finding that down there, Peter is still up there hunting, and he meets up with Sam, who actually does turn. But this was I haven't seen this before in vampire lore, but the puppet. Sam turns into a puppet. Now, I didn't really understand it at first. I'm like, she's being controlled by Abigail. Like, Abigail is in control of her body. And everything that Abigail does up there where she's dancing and stuff is what Sam's doing. So that was very interesting. You're only half vampire. You're not really a vampire. You're just a puppet for a vampire. That was a very interesting little tidbit that I don't recall seeing in anything else. Control, yes, but just an actual hand puppet, which is what Sam became. We find out later why, right? It didn't occur to me, but I found out at the end. I'm like, okay, I see how things are going. What this is. So she ends up killing Peter really ugly, and she turns into that puppet. And then Joey and Frank come to help him, and they end up the way they kill her is she busts the boards off the window, right, and the sunlight blows her up. So that was the end of Sam. They go back down, and this is where they find that Lambert is still there in the control room. And Lambert says he wants to make a deal, right, with Frank, that he will let Frank go if Frank will help him kill Abigail, because he's tired of, being under her control and being a slave to her. So he's like, if you'll help me kill her, then I'll let you go. But to help me kill her, I have to turn you into a vampire. So he does. He bites him, and then he lets him feed, and then that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, I see. You see. If you're just bit, you can become a puppet. But if you get bit and are fed that vampire's blood, then you are, for real, a vampire, and not just a puppet. So that made sense. It was very cool little new addition to my vampire repertoire of lore of various kinds. So Frank does do it. It's a really cool transformation. He betrays Lambert, though, stakes him and kills him, and he blows up, leaving him with Joey. Now, he's a total asshole. He has been the whole time. So he grabs Joey and turns her into a puppet. But then we find out one little extra piece of that lore. They go out, when he chases her down and turns her into a puppet. He chases her down. They go out into the library, and Abigail is still alive, And she'll say something really cool about this situation. But she's still alive. So we have the quintessential boss fight, right? And it goes back and forth. He tries to get Joey as a puppet to help him. And it's a really good boss fight. It goes back and forth, but finally they do manage to kill and blow up Frank. And that line that she said right before she killed him was really good, because she staked him. And that was, she goes, you have to be a vampire for a real, you have to be a vampire for a long time to really know the tricks. Now, what that meant was, I think that Frank was a little confused as to why Joey wasn't being as much of a puppet, as helpful in following his commands as Sammy had been to Abigail. And that's what she meant when she was like, you have to be a vampire for a long time to know the tricks, to really know the tricks. So, and that makes sense, So he wasn't very good at controlling his puppet because he had only been a vampire for fucking 10 minutes. So that made a lot of sense. She ends up together with Joey. He's blown up. And then you kind of think it's over. And then you get to meet her dad. Her dad walks in. And there's this really cool exchange between them where she convinces him to let her go. So she actually let Joey go, And she also told Joey that what little puppet she was dissipated when Frank was killed. So, the lure of that little aspect was complete. So Joey walks out, and I like what she said as she was walking out the door. She was like, the fuck? It's like, okay, this has been a wild night. And so I like that attitude. So she goes, she gets into the truck, and she takes off, and that's the end of the movie. Now, the post-credits, after the credits, we see Abigail doing her ballet practice again, and then that's it. The movie ends. You then, of course, have all of the cool features that you would. There's lots of bloopers. There's the blooper reel. There's the documentaries. There's the making of, which shows all the practical effects. So that was really cool. As far as what I said, there is also a memory and loving memory to Angus Cloud. That was the guy who played Dean. Like I said, when I saw that at the credits, I was like, who was Angus Cloud? Was that one of the actors? And I looked, and it's the guy who played Dean. And then I went, he died. None of his parts are dubbed. None of his appearance in this movie is dubbed or CGI. He had completely finished filming this film before he died. So everything in this movie that is him is him. He was off the project. He had finished all of his work, his voice, his dubs, his overdubs. Everything had been completed. He was completely through with this film when he died. He died on June the 31st, 2023, of a massive overdose of drugs. He was full of meth, fentanyl, cocaine, and benzos. So, that's a lot. What the fuck? I don't understand. I'm gonna go a little rant here. I don't understand rich people, and I don't understand, it's like how I felt when, what was one of the most shocking, when Lisa Marie Presley's son committed suicide, blew his head off at 21 or something like that, because he was like, oh my God, my life is just so miserable without me girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, I don't understand. I guess you gotta be poor or middle class or something, but I don't get it. I just don't get it. What with this 25-year-old dude, Angus Cloud? What are you doing? You've got money. You're in the movies. He was like the star of Euphoria on HBO or something like that, and other stuff. You've got money. You don't sit at a table worrying about how to pay the light bill. You don't sit at the table wondering if you're going to have enough food to eat for the month. You don't experience any of these things. You're healthy. You're doing something with your life. You're out there. You're in the movies. And you fucking have meth, cocaine, fentanyl, and benzos in your system at the same time. Why don't you go and live in a trailer park for a year and a half and live on, $800 a month? Pay the rent, pay the lights, pay the phone, pay your phone or your landline or your mobile, and the internet. Just basic. Don't have a car. Don't even have to pay fucking insurance or tag or car payments or anything. Let's just bring it down to complete poor white trash. Okay? or like estate yobs. Okay, you got a light bill, a phone bill, a water bill, and an electric bill, and you don't even have nothing else, and that's the way you live. I think if these people, Lisa Marie Presley's son, and this guy, Angus Cloud, you put their ass in something like that for a while, maybe they'll appreciate what the hell their position is, because these people ain't got nothing to worry about, or they find different things to worry about, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the struggle of life. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm ranting a little bit. It just upset me because he's 25 years old. He's stone cold dead, full of fucking drugs. Elvis Presley's grandson? Like, what the fuck? For what? When you've got everything. I just don't get it. So, I know that was a dark downer for the end of this, but hey, when one of the actors in the movie that you're reviewing and celebrating, you find out at the end is dead of a massive drug overdose, you're like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's just, I don't get these people. What about you, watching this right now? If you were in their position, would you be able to find something else to do than pump fentanyl into your body? I think I could. I could find something to do with that money, time, fame. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I could come up with some ideas that did not involve harming myself. I could, I swear. And I wouldn't give a shit what anybody thought or needed. I wouldn't need anybody, right? I'd be like, okay, yeah, I don't know. Other side of the fence, right? Whatever. So that was Abigail. And a little rant on one of the actors being dead, and I didn't expect that. So I did give this 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it was a fantastic addition to the vampire genre. And yeah, so tell me what you think about this film. Did you like Abigail? And do you find it a worthy entry into? I'd like to see a sequel. I could handle a sequel if they did a good one. They'd have to take it into a different direction. Or they couldn't. I mean, you could just have another group of her victims trying to get away. That would be a little redundant, though. But I'm sure that you could, go into the lure of her and her dad, and her being, basically a gangster hitman, is what she is. And he's a vampire gangster boss. It's like playing Vampire the Masquerade. So, it's very interesting. I love this film. I think it was great. And please let me know what you think about it in the comments. Sorry about the rant about rich people killing themselves, but I just don't get it. And I will see you in the next video. Love you, miss you, bye. Always remember, never forget that you're a very, very special person, and don't let anyone ever tell you different. And I will see you in the next one. Love ya. Miss ya. Bye-bye.